Money Majors, Episode 13. Welcome to Money Majors, your podcast for young entrepreneurs by young entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Garrett.
And today we're going to go through some wonderful news items that we've picked out of the news, covering the entire universe of young entrepreneurs, from venture capitalists to venture spending, the whole fleet of it.
Facebook and the UK, we got a couple different themes.
Yep, we've got people who dropped out of college to pursue entrepreneurial dreams.
People who got paid to drop out of college as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
We've got some love.
Yeah, again,
Entrepreneurship.
I'm seeing
and love.
a thread here.
Yep, we have articles from around the world, and even going to throw in some Facebook in there.
Always.
How you doing?
Always
How you doing
Facebook.
otherwise, Garrett?
Pretty good. Found out the other day I got a need for speed.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
I thought that habit had gone away, but I'm still quite the
Still a young man.
young male. So.
All right. Well, we're recording live from our new location, our new undisclosed location, the super secret Money Majors bunker.
Yes.
Somewhere on the east coast of America, dispensing the wonders of young entrepreneurship. So, shall we jump on into the news, Garrett?
Totally. The
Take it
first
away.
article is from the Telegraph, and it's about angel investors, and the title is called Angel Network and Fund Targets Student Entrepreneurs. And this is interesting, and I'm personally really interested in this article. And it says that angel investors normally stress the value of, quote, gray hair when picking entrepreneurs to back. Those with sector experience or a track record of running businesses are understandably preferable to wet behind the ears founders. And two angel network and seed investment type people think this is wrong, and so they're focusing with their effort called FIG, the Find, Invest, Grow. It's an active network of angel investors with its own investment fund to back young entrepreneurs, and £2.1 million has already been given out across 9 companies, and they're looking for those who are students and not those who, quote, have this gray hair. So there's an opportunity for students to apply for this sort of thing. And they say they knew plenty of students wanted to start a company, but wondered if any any companies had supported these students. And they found that Y Combinator, the American entrepreneur, Paul Graham's unconventional hybrid of startup and business school, his program was similar, but it had some shortcomings. That's what they hope to accomplish with this FIG. So what do you think about that?
I think any chance where angel investors are willing to dump money into young entrepreneurial projects and not try to micromanage them or take over their profits is a great thing. I think this kind of follows a pattern that we're seeing abroad, in England, where they're trying to encourage more of their young people to branch out and become more entrepreneurial.
Right.
Kind of include that American spirit of go after and get it, which we actually cover a little later on. Different people from different countries learn different things from each other's entrepreneurial culture and spirit.
Yeah, and we saw that last episode where we talked about UK students on student visas. If they had a promising venture, then they had permission to stay post-graduation if they did not have a position lined up, which is not the case for most students graduating without positions. They would be asked to leave the country if they didn't have something lined up. So we're seeing a lot of activity over in the UK.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see what are other countries doing for their young entrepreneurs, and how are they pushing them out of the nest, and how do we do that in America? I mean, we've talked about in the past about instead of going to college and having the government pay for your university tuition, they instead give you that money to go off and form a business. And we actually talk about, in this next article I'm going to come up with, is about people who are purposely say, don't go to school, do entrepreneurship, here's some money, go for it. Just throw out into the lions. I think that's the best way to learn. And our interns are going to find out firsthand that's the best way that we're going to teach them how to do things, is get in there and just do it.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is totally what we're doing right now.
That's what we do
Leading
every
by
episode.
example.
Lead by example, yes, sir.
Cool.
So next up, we have an article from the Technology Review, which is one of my favorite publications. It's coming out of MIT. And this one may not think it has a technological bent, but it kind of does. The title of the article is Too Young to Fail, and it revolves around Peter Thiel, who is the high-profile Silicon Valley billionaire, and he's PayPal's co-founder. Graduate of Stanford University. Peter Thiel last year said, "You know what? I got a great idea for an experiment. Let's put $100,000 into the hands of 24 entrepreneurial teenagers who are in college. They have to drop out of college to participate, and let's see what they can do." Because Thiel's got this idea that college isn't for everyone, and maybe instead of wasting your time in college, which as we go into this every time, Garrett, about we say no, you should stay in school, but I'm gonna completely change that now and say, it all depends on who you are. College is for some people, it may not be for other people, and circumstances can be dramatically different between the different people. So college doesn't fit everyone, but also dropping out of college and going
Yeah,
after
and their
business
argument
doesn't
is
fit
that
everyone.
a lot of students will leave college with a large amount of debt, and that severely limits their options and creativity because they'll pick a job, any job that pays, in order to start paying off that debt, and that debt takes a while to takes your pretty much your entire youth to pay
Hmm.
off,
Hmm.
and then so you may join like a large corporation, have your creativity beat down, and this is all from the article, and in that case, so by the time you arrive debt free, you're no longer don't have the time, energy, whatever it is to do a venture. You just never got around to it. So his argument is that for some people to just avoid all that. And this is probably what you would spend, 25K a year or whatever it is, probably what you would spend on tuition, depending on where you
Yeah,
go,
yeah. The
everything else.
article starts off by talking about a bright, very very smart young lady named Laura Deming. She was basically studying for finals in a crowded MIT reading room last April when her phone rang, and she answered the phone, and it was Peter Thiel, and he's like, "Look, I've chosen you out of some 400 applicants, and I want you to drop out of college right now, drop out of MIT, and come pursue your dream, pursue your business idea." And she did, and so she packed up everything at the Sigma Kappa sorority and took off for Palo Alto, and now she's settling in. She's going around talking to venture capitalists and angel investors. Her she can't really talk about what her idea is because of SEC rules, but she's doing it, and she maybe this young lady, she's obviously very smart. She's only 17 years old, and she might be maybe not the best example for this program. So take this with a grain of salt. Laura started at MIT at the age of 14. She was homeschooled prodigy who learned calculus at 11, and sought experience in cutting edge genetics labs when she was only 12 years old. So this is a very very different story, but because it's MIT, they decided to cover this story. So she dropped out, and now she's out in Palo Alto, and she's seeing what can she do. Now we know Thiel has his detractors. He's gotten some quick success. There's a fellow named Eden Full, who's only 19, won a $260,000 social entrepreneurship for her efforts to kind of improve solar energy in developing countries. Dale Stevens, who's only 20 years old, he landed a Penguin deal for his book Hacking Your Education. So these are all people who've taken the kind of the Peter Thiel challenge, and you have to stay out for 2 years. You can't just drop out, do the business, doesn't work, 9 months later you're back in class. No, you got to stay out for 2 years,
Hmm.
and away you're going.
Yeah, at the end of the article, they're saying that
Yeah.
with startup success stories tempting undergraduates to quit, universities have raced to add entrepreneurship to their curricula. Stanford has this Startup X, which is an accelerator for student-run startups. Similarly, last year, UC Berkeley created the Founder School, which prepares students to raise venture money. Boyle, managing director of the Entrepreneurial Institute at Yale University, which lost 4 undergraduates to the Thiel fellowships, this very thing we're talking about, agrees that more colleges should help kids start companies, but he says that most students benefit from an environment where they can test ideas without betting their future.
Would you
That's
do this
important.
if a
Oh,
billionaire
hell
called
yeah.
you? I don't know. I mean, I'm older. I'm not yet 30, but I'm not.
I got 2 years to burn.
I don't have 2 years residency. Okay. So I've been through college. As everybody will learn by our wonderful bios on our website, which was thank you interns for that wonderful suggestion that we've now incorporated. I've been through university. I got a degree. The degree was for what I needed to, what I wanted to do at the time. It seemed like it was an interesting degree. I found out later that was not a good degree to have. Well, no, a degree is a degree. I think in general is a good thing to have. Don't get me wrong. I think having a college experience and having a college degree, bar none, is a great experience to have. But for me, it was not what I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing, and that was politics. So I was like, look, I'm going back to school and I'm going to do electrical engineering. And I've said this point several times, but if you asked me now, drop out, John, and spend your 30s for a couple of years, give you
Chasing the
$200,000.
dream.
I don't know if I would do it though, because it feels like I'm in a different part of my life, and I
Right.
have a set goal
Hmm.
in mind. I am gonna be an electrical engineer. For a lot of other people, they may think I'm gonna be a lawyer, or I'm gonna be a doctor, or I'm
Hmm.
gonna be a biologist. Um, it may not appeal to everyone. I probably would not have done it back then. I probably would have
Hmm.
maybe not been as when I was younger. I would not have done it.
Yeah, Laura's only 17, so she'll be 19 when she finishes the program, for better or worse.
Yeah. So, but she's also learned calculus at 11, and
Yeah.
I've yet to even
So
understand.
2 years her time is like 6+ years normal human time.
I like to joke around and say I just learned what calculus is about a year ago, so I thought math stopped at algebra, but that's a joke. But it is a very important point: is what do you do if college is not right for you? Um, so I guess we'll continue to check up on this and see where people go, and see how they develop and grow outside of the university atmosphere versus in the university atmosphere.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of mistrust in our generation where I'll talk to a lot of my friends and they'll think that they were kind of promised by their parents that if they got a degree that would instantly translate to a good paying job, and of course that's not the case. So they feel kind of gypped, and they're like, I've seen these whatever
I
jokes
actually
on the internet about this, and no, a lot of my friends do feel like they were misled.
Well, I think there's also a little bit of cultural anticipation that I go to college, I expect to go out and get a degree. That just because I went to college means why am I not getting a job? I've got this college degree. I'm entitled to a job. I think that's, you see, I've come across young people who feel they're entitled to a job just because they have a college degree, and that's just not always the case. I mean, that it varies between people, it varies between careers and things like that. So, but I'm very excited for this program, and I think certainly if he can show that if you can whittle people down, you can find the right applicants like this young lady here who have good ideas and can make them work, and just takes a little bit of investment, then we may actually have something for this new Generation Y and Generation Z who definitely are approaching business in very different ways than our parents. Even Generation X, which I am a part of. Your Generation Y, I'm Generation X. Generation X and the baby boomers approached it as, nope, you got to go to college, you got to get a degree. After you've got your degree, then you start at a company, you rise up the corporate ladder, and one day you may be able to buy a business and live the American dream. But there was a set path to follow. So, next up on our list of articles, since Valentine's Day was this week and we missed Valentine's Day, we decided to include a little article about love.
Yeah.
Did I not say that enough? Barry White, love. So this article is on how young entrepreneurs can make time for love. It is from entrepreneur.com, and it talks about that, with the arrival of yet another Valentine's Day, a young entrepreneur's thoughts may turn to love. And though many of us young, excuse me,
May.
many of us
I'm a
young,
business robot. Just
you're
kidding.
a
All
machine,
right.
Garrett. You're a machine. Many of us yearn for love, but we may simply not have the time for it, and that's a problem that young entrepreneurs don't have time for it. So they asked, Mark Randolph, co-founder of Netflix, in the article. He kind of explains the situation that he experienced as an entrepreneur with 6 startups under his belt. He's like, look, quote, starting a company requires a marriage-like commitment, for better or worse, richer or poor, sickness and health. So you're an entrepreneur, you've got a startup, or you're putting all of your time and energy and effort into this. When something like Valentine's Day comes around, what do you do? I mean, ladies are hanging all over Garrett all the time. So me, I got to beg fight and steal. But so these probably apply to myself more than Garrett. But if you're a young entrepreneur out there, we thought this article might appeal to you. And so they came up with 7 steps to kind of help you make time for love.
This is a 7-step program.
7-step program
to balance
love.
your life.
It does not apply to calculus majors, but I'm just a joke. Number 2 on the list I thought should be number 1, but it's return to civilization. No matter where you are, whether you're working in your parents' basement, you're working in your office, get out and reassociate with the world. That I ran into that problem myself because for 2 years, I was when I was starting at my company, I was by myself. I was in my condo, didn't have any employees, didn't have anyone around. I couldn't talk to anyone because all my friends were at work. So I was by myself, and it became very lonely, very boring, very isolated. And it wasn't until I started actually getting out.
And that's not uncommon.
That's not uncommon, no. A lot of single, young entrepreneurial, and when I say single, I mean sole proprietorship startups, when you're just by yourself trying to get something created, if you don't get out into the real world, return to civilization, you start getting cabin fever. And you start losing contact with the rest of the world. So I think returning to civilization should be number 1. And then the article says, look, if you want to attract and keep the attention of a real person, you better start acting like one. Next up on the list is one we've gone into many times, which is don't expect instant success. You're a non-traditional person. You're an entrepreneur. So finding someone who values that kind of spirit can take time. We've talked about matchmaking events, which they just had one. Under 30 CEO had a matchmaking event for entrepreneurs in New York City. Go out to these events, meet other young entrepreneurs who are also working 16-hour days and don't have time, and together you can work together and work on your own social skills and everything.
Be workaholic buddies. That's awesome. Be miserable together. This is great. No, just kidding. I love this.
That's
so
our
cool,
parents. Cool. No, I'm kidding. But I kid a lot. So, but don't expect instant success in trying to find someone to connect with and to share your time with. First, get out into the real world and actually start meeting real people. Show other people that you're not a workaholic all the time, that you are willing to get out and have fun. Don't expect instant success. You may meet someone who's right for you. You may not. But and then the third one I'm going to cover from this list of 7, which you should definitely check out in the show notes, is be honest. Can you really be an entrepreneur and have a relationship? I went through that myself. I don't know if you have, Garrett, but I went through this area where, do I even have time for a relationship? Between working 16-hour days and then working another, sitting up for another 4 hours and then only getting, 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night.
Then being on call.
Yeah, it's like being on call. It's like, do you have the time and can you make the commitment to, not just in time, but time in dollars, to commit yourself to something other than making your business
and attention
concept.
And everything else, yeah.
Yeah. Can you commit yourself to something that's not part of your business? So we hope you all find love out there, but at the same time, for entrepreneurs, it's very different because we're always going around in circles trying to find different things.
Yeah. Well, next article is of a social nature, and it's called Social Entrepreneurs Use Startups to Change the World. And Muhammad Yunus, a 2006 Nobel Peace Prize winner and founder of Green Mean Bank, sparked a movement with the simple question of, if you are a socially conscious person, why don't you run your business in a way that will help you achieve social objectives? Today's young entrepreneurs have inherited Yunus's vision, and they're changing the ways that we do business. We've talked about this as a common theme. Their space, quote, social business is nothing new, but these under 35s are attempting to alleviate global poverty, climate change, and even armed conflict through commercial enterprise. And there's no clear-cut definition, but most social entrepreneurs would agree that the overarching goal is to use business and business prospects to drive social or environmental impact. There is a growing group in Silicon Valley that believes that social business and technology can change the world, says Leah Jenna. Jinnah is about 29 years old and is founder of Samasource, which provides outsourced computer work to women and youth in the poorest pockets of the world, including India, Kenya, and Pakistan. And the article says that I was doing this in the mid to late 90s.
Take your
I
time.
felt very lonely. Yeah. There wasn't even a language for social or mission investment. This is Mr. DeBerry, a founder of Bronze Investments and a partner at Kapor Capital. But for young entrepreneurs today, it's considered the right thing to do, and it's viewed as being cool. So I'm worried, though, that this is being considered cool and not something they're actually into. It's just something to fit in.
Yeah. Well,
it's like the mainstream thing to do.
it's like why, we have this thing on. Okay, for all of you out there who work on Capitol Hill or who have worked in Capitol Hill, just turn the podcast down for a moment, because I'm going to talk about my own personal opinion of working on the Hill, which I don't try not to do, but I think in this instance it helps. Is that when you're in politics and you're working for Congress, you get a lot of resumes of people who front load their resume with all these amazing things that they've done. They're in this fraternity or that sorority. They've done this, and this volunteer efforts. Are they are the absolute most outgoing, perfect person resumes you've ever read. And it looks good to start off with. It looks good to volunteer. It looks good to intern. But sometimes when you hire those people, or you actually corner them on some of these things, it's you start to find out who is serious about changing the world and who is serious about devoting their free time to changing the world.
Who just did it because their parents told them to.
Yeah, who did it just because their advisor, parents, or they had to do it as part of to get a job or to make their resume look better.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to parse that.
Well, to wrap up this article, two quick examples of social are Zipcar and Pay Near Me, which DeBerry terms as profit-aligned social businesses, and they've caught the attention of the tech community. And the last quote is there was a great hubris in Silicon Valley to create huge billion-dollar companies, but that's changing, says Jinnah, who is a Harvard-educated entrepreneur, but she owes her success to traditional tech companies like LinkedIn and Intuit. So she's not saying that you don't need the traditional for-profit tech companies and stuff like that. She, attributes a lot of her success to it, or success. So
Yeah,
cool,
absolutely. So moving along, we're going to jump across the pond for a moment to our brothers and sisters and distant cousins out there.
We keep hopping back and forth between, getting tired of hopping over there and back.
Over there and back. Well, one day, Garrett, when we have enough stories to have an international section, we can go to international reporter Garrett McNamara, and he can cover the latest across the pond. But we try to make these articles kind of match up together, and this is, I think, goes along with that. This is from the York Press, entitled "Young People Urged to Shun the Del Boy Image of Entrepreneurship." Now, first we had to find out what in the world is a Del Boy.
I was like, John, what is this?
Yeah. Americans might not get this, and I didn't get it. I had to look it up. But a Del Boy comes from a British TV sitcom called Only Fools and Horses. And a Del Boy is described as a poor, ineffective scam artist or con man.
So you don't want to be a Del Boy.
You don't want to be an ineffective con man. But the article talks about that York, England, needs to refresh its view of enterprise. And this was according to some entrepreneurs who spoke at York St. John University. The panel of entrepreneurs spoke to the university's business school students on Enterprise Day to encourage more young people to start a business. But some of those who were there kind of said that in England, entrepreneurship and enterprise is kind of associated with the Del Boy image, but that people are kind of coming around on it. A lot of people have this image of young people as, oh, you're going to start yourself a business, you don't know what you're doing, you're going to fail, or you're trying to pull one over on me. You're not really serious about it. But the article talks about that people, not just the government, are realizing that young people are making businesses, they're becoming successful at it. You may need to approach them differently in their creation of business, but they're making wealth and they're generating wealth for others. And I found just in this article was some great quotes from the British. Was that person said, quote, this person is Simon Long, who's the director of Zing, which runs Feel Good Foods, which is and a smoothie bar enterprise kind of project for schools. Said that, quote, as a nation, we're very scared of embarrassment and failure. And that's a cultural thing. but he says you can very publicly fail, and that puts a lot of people off. He says what he learned being in America is that it's better to have a go and fail attitude than to just talk about it. So it's like what we were talking about with how we're doing. You jump in, you give it a shot. Don't be afraid to fail, because there's a chance you could fail. But so Michael Jacobson, founder and director of Corporate Success Institute and founding co-producer of a stage show called Dirty Dancing, said that compared with his homeland of Australia, that the UK offered more support for entrepreneurship, though Australia had a more have a go attitude. So I think we actually may see that in some of our interns. In that
I'm happy.
We have three absolutely wonderful interns
Who may or may not listen to our podcast.
No, of course they all do, and they love to give us feedback on it. But one is from America, one is from Japan, and the other is from Taiwan. And so each.
But the American is originally from Korea, or of Korean descent.
She's of Korean descent. But
yeah.
So they all three bring an interesting cultural twist to what is entrepreneurship, starting a business, and things like that, which I think that we will benefit from greatly. But essentially this article is saying that, look, there's this impression in England, and I think that that some people share this in America, is that young people don't know what they're doing, and they're going to go out and they're going to fail, and they're just going to take our monies and things like that. But where do we see a lot of these high-flying, multi-millionaire young entrepreneurs coming from, Garrett? Right here in America. I should have phrased that better, but Mark Zuckerberg, America. Chad Hurley, America. The fellows from Twitter, Jack Dorsey, young person from America. So we see America creating these young entrepreneurs, and I have yet to come across something like this. In fact, I should make a note to check on this. How has the young multimillionaire entrepreneurs of America, how do they compare with the young multimillionaire entrepreneurs of other countries, especially Europeans?
We should do studies.
That'd be cool. we should check that out and find out, because I'd be very interested to know.
I'm going to write that down. If we think about it from terms of having a can-do spirit, go out and even if you fail, still go out and try it, versus fear of failure. How does the young entrepreneurs, how does their cultural impact that, don't be afraid to fail type attitude? So totally.
Absolutely. So moving along, just a very short article that we found from Mashable. It's entitled, "On Facebook, Millennials Friend an Average of 16 Coworkers." This article just kind of caught my eye because it's something that I've been studying kind of from a technological perspective. But the very first quote of the article, which was by Dan Schwabel, founder of Millennial Branding, which is kind of a company that conducted a Gen Y and Facebook study. He said that Generation Y needs to be aware that what they publish online can come back to haunt them in the workplace. And the article is a little disjointed in filling that in, I think, but what you can extract from this article is that most Generation Y stay at their first job for about 2 years. And this study looked at the popular job titles and workplaces among millennials. They're working at across the board of these different companies, but they're also friending an average of 16 coworkers. And so if you're staying at your first job for only 2 years and you friend 16 people at that first job, and then you go on to the next job and the next job and the next job, and then someday down the road maybe you start your own company, you have to be careful about what you put onto social networks, because they're not just exposed to 16 coworkers at job 1, but when you get to job 3, you're exposing things to people you worked with in the past, and that can jeopardize networking relationship opportunities in the past. So, and there's a wonderful, actually, an infographic, which you should definitely check out, which will be in the show notes for this article. But it kind of just talks about that Generation Y is using social media to connect with their coworkers and connect with their bosses, and that's may not always be.
I've gotten pushback personally where I made a statement about a security product and stuff like that was just kind of my opinion, but it wasn't too scientific. Like I hadn't spent 100 hours of back-end research on it. So I was about 99% certain, not 100% certain. I got pushback because my coworker was like, "Well, you're speaking. I mean, you're not speaking on behalf of the company, but you are kind of because it's listed in your profile. So you need to be careful about what you say in the security space. So you're kind of torn between like being an independent professional and one who represents the company, kind of at all times when you talk about anything in that sort of topic space. And I was actually more talking to some of my friends and peers who are security students or whatever, and it was just more of an interesting casual statement. But now I think about that when I talk about anything that could be construed as a professional opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we we're I think we're coming into a period of oversharing on social networks, and that you have to be very careful as a young entrepreneur and oversharing, because certainly if I'm going to invest in your company, I want to know everything about your company, but especially I want to know everything about you. And that seems a little creepy, maybe, but I want
Apparently,
to.
that's how it is.
That is how it is, and that is, if you think Kleiner Perkins is not going to check you out before giving you a check for 150 grand for your business, you need to really reconsider that, because they want to make sure that you're not a liability. And so if they queue up a Facebook profile and you're
So it's not just an evaluation of your idea and your plans, but
yeah
you as a person, because you're the driving force behind it. Can you be trusted with this much money? And what are you going to do in tough times and stuff like that, or pressured, or how do you handle stress?
yeah how do you handle stress?
A lot
Are
of
you
things.
going on your Facebook complaining about venture capitalists that you met and who didn't invest in your business? Are you opening yourself up to exposure by putting personal, critical, sensitive things on social networks? Because that reflects that will to them. And I'm sorry, I believe this opinion that I'm about to make, in that I think what you put on social networks and how you portray yourself online is a good indication of how you behave in real life. People may disagree with that, but when you're online, you think, and I think for a lot of young people, they feel, I'm online, nobody knows who I am, I'm separated, I've got this firewall kind of built up around me. But we see time and time again, this this cross between what we do online is affecting us in real life. Like that article, there was an article in the media lately about a father whose daughter got mad at her parents because she felt like they were giving her too many chores and they weren't paying her enough money for the chores. So she wrote a rant, a profanity-laced rant about her parents on her Facebook, and her father found it. And at first her father took away her laptop and her phone, but the daughter still found a way to get on the internet and rant and rave about her parents. And so her father's like, you know what? I guess taking away your cell phone and your laptop was not enough. So here's what we're going to do. And so he prints out her Facebook message to her parents, Facebook rant. He makes a YouTube video of himself reading it. And he says, well, dear, I guess that wasn't good enough, so we're going to just, we're taking your laptop out to the pasture. And he proceeds to shoot it with a gun. Now, regardless of whether you think that was good or bad parenting, she did something that she thought wouldn't get out, that she thought was completely private, on a social network, and somebody found it. Now imagine if she was a young businesswoman and she wrote a rant about her boss, and her boss found that. We've seen cases in the past where people have ranted about their company or their bosses on Facebook and gotten fired for it.
I've seen people, I don't know if these are true because I don't know the people directly, but I've seen people fired on Facebook. At the end of their rant, the boss comes on and is like, hey, did you forget you're friends with me? Yeah, don't come in anymore. I'm like, wow, that's harsh.
That is harsh. But so, take a look at the article. Take a look at the study. Again, the study is called Gen Y and Facebook Study.
There's an infographic in the article as well.
Yeah, which you got to check out.
Yep.
So last on the list for the news is an article I had to include in here. It may not seem...
Entrepreneurs have to think differently, and this individual definitely did think differently, or at least he stretched the boundaries.
He stretched the boundaries
of what he was given.
So this is just... Okay, the title of the article is The Most Expensive Starbucks Drink Ever, $23.60 plus tip. And it comes off of Yahoo News' Shine subsidiary. Essentially, one man, one coupon, two baristas, and 31 ounces of imagination is what it took to create the most expensive Starbucks drink ever made. And what caught my eye was this little part here, which said that Logan Warren, a 22-year-old tech entrepreneur and student, can't usually afford to get his Starbucks caffeine fix.
No, but he does need 1,440 milligrams of caffeine
Don't you?
all day.
Absolutely. I'd say that's on the light side. Anyways, he'll
Yeah.
have a caffeine overdose. But so, anyways, for his birthday, he got a coupon, which you can get by simply signing up for Starbucks rewards program with your email address. He got a coupon for his birthday that said that he could get a free drink of any size with any additional add-ons.
So he started with the Trenta, which is a supersized coffee cup introduced by the company last May.
Yeah, now Trenta, for those of you to get an idea of what a Trenta cup is, it holds one bottle of wine.
Oh my God.
TechCrunch found,
Wow.
Lifehacker discovered that a single Trenta cup can hold one bottle of wine.
Wow.
So, very large cup. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to maximize this. So he started off with the Trenta, and then he just started adding shots. He spent a half an hour with a couple of very surprisingly cheerful baristas devising the equation for the most expensive powders, syrups, and shots to fill the entire Trenta cup. And here's how it broke down. So we've got a Java chip Frappuccino at $4.75, plus 16 shots of espresso
$12.
at $12, a shot of soy milk at 60 cents, caramel flavoring, a scoop of banana puree, another scoop of strawberry puree, a few vanilla beans, a dash of matcha powder, some protein powder, and caramel mocha drizzle to cap it off.
Hey, it's got protein. It must be healthy.
Yeah, but, that's pretty interesting. Using that wonderful entrepreneur spirit to say, you know what, I'm going to maximize the value out of this.
He says the drink was tolerable in its taste, and it was not great. But imagine a coffee-based health food smoothie that will put you in the hospital if you drink it all. So I'm wondering if the company's gonna put a cap on these birthday coupons.
Well, there's the youngest board member of Starbucks works a quoted 100 hours per week.
I bet she goes through one of these a day at least.
I have to say, I don't believe her. Because I'm thinking 100 hours a week, and she's married. I know
there's the
law
deal breaker.
graduates who work 80 hours a week, and they look like zombies, and I never see them. But when they go check their mail,
I'd work over 100. I did the math. I added everything together that I do, and it's definitely 100 or greater.
wow.
But I'm also not married,
Not married,
that would be the
and
deal breaker right there.
You don't sleep.
Yeah.
And you probably have 16 cases of energy drinks from Amway sitting in your room.
And I drive really fast to make good time.
So, anyways, that's just a great article that an entrepreneur took his knowledge and kind of entrepreneurial can-do spirit. But I'll bet you, Garrett, I will bet you a Frappuccino that within 3 months, Starbucks is going to come out with some $15, $16, $17 drink.
Oh.
They're going to say, $23. Wow, we're really leaving a lot of value on the table here. We need to come out with some kind of
Trenta plus plus.
Trenta plus $15 see weird colors and stars from so
with
much
an
caffeine.
overflow valve and oh my God.
I'll bet you.
Oh my God, and safety handles and.
Because you know what? That's what I would do. I would make a marketing campaign around that, and I'd say, what can we create for $15?
I would put a cap on the coupons, and you would embrace this and be like, minimum drink order is $15. Like,
I would embrace it. No, I'm just saying
that's awesome.
If I was in charge of Starbucks, it's what I would do. I would look at that and say, one of our customers came up with something for $23. Why don't we test run a $14, $13, $12, $10, even a $10 drink, and say, the super caffeinator.
If you market it as healthy maybe in quotes, because you're adding stuff like a healthy milk or a protein powder, perhaps you can get away with that, where you're adding like a health benefit as well as an energy benefit, and perhaps I don't know if you could say it's a meal replacement, but
no,
it's
I think this is a learning opportunity. I think this is a good learning experience for entrepreneurs. You look at what your customer. There's this thing in economics called the supply and demand curve. And you know it. You want to make sure that you are supplying exactly what your customers are demanding. And you get that equilibrium so that you don't have a surplus and you're not having shortages. You're supplying exactly the maximum at which they're willing to pay the price and demand. So if you suddenly see your customers coming up with interesting new ways and it's ratcheting up the bill, maybe that's an idea you should explore towards. So I think Starbucks will come out with a drink within 3 to 6 months that is a $10 super healthy yet caffeinated, super delicious caffeinated drink because they saw, well, someone was able to do it for 23. It made the news. Let's see if people are willing to pay $10 for a drink. You never know. So I think it's interesting. So that was the news. Woo! Yay! Jingle, jingle, moving into next part of the show.
Events.
Events, yes. We try to include events, and we talked about these in the last show, and as we get more, we'll add them in there. But coming up on March 15th is the Under 30 CEO Demo Pitches Competition. It's called the Tough Question Competition. And this is where entrepreneurs will kindly be, they're going to be put on stage and asked some really tough questions. And they'll be told what they need to hear. Under 30 CEO kind of chastised themselves last year that they were not being critical enough to businesses and pitches that they came across, and that sometimes you need a competition or you need a forum where you take it in there and completely unbiased people will just hand it to you. So that's on March 15th, 2012. And you can, in New York City, you can find out more through a link in the show notes or on the under30ceo.com website. The next one coming up is it's coming up, but the applications are due March 15th, and it's later this year. It's called NYC's First 3-Day Startup Event. It's 3-day startup, and essentially you will come up with an idea and start a technology company over the course of 3 days. You can find out more at nyc.3daystartup.org. Applications, as I said, are due March 15th. So, Garrett, you're going to apply for that, aren't you?
I should.
We should both do it and see who gets in.
What do you got to lose?
Time and money.
Time.
Time and money.
Mm-hmm.
As we say in engineering, you can never have enough time or money. Well, we say that everywhere. But so last on the list of events is SMSS Chicago, which is the Social Media Strategies Conference, which will be held in Chicago, April 18th through the 19th. It's a 2-day event comprised of workshops, case studies, and a variety of presentations and an abundance of network opportunities centering around social media strategies. So be sure to check that out and the other stories in our show notes. As always, love us, hate us, have suggestions. I know our interns do. Email us at podcast@moneymajors.net. Find us on Twitter. We've been interacting with a lot of folks, a lot of the stories we cover on Twitter, and they've been graciously retweeting and interacting with us. Drop us a message at Money Majors. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/moneymajors. And last but not least, of course, you can find out show notes, calendars, biographical informations, and interesting pictures of the hosts at www.moneymajors.net. Thanks a lot for listening. Bye-bye.
Money, 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 all I ever hear these days. Every song that the DJ plays, talking of a similar situation. Ain't got none and got to get some. Gotta have more than I had before. Gotta have more than the man next door. Every day I gotta make some more, some more, some more. Well, give me a break, yeah, or let me take some time out. Gotta frisk my mind out before I lose my life now.